Hey, I'm Dawn Marie Solis with INNIS 2022 Neurodiversity Conference, and I am here with Matt Kisloski. He is from Visions Credit Union in their, is it a financial wellness department? What's the department called? Financial?
Yes,
Great.
financial
Right.
wellness.
Yay. And we have gotten to know each other through some diversity and inclusion work and really good efforts in the community. We love Visions Credit Union here because they do an awfully good job helping people who may struggle a little bit with money concepts, may not know everything about money. Does anybody know everything about money? I don't know. They do a really good job. I went around asking different banks and credit unions, I'm autistic, I'm ADHD, I'm dyscalculic. That's like dyslexia, but for numbers, and it has a whole lot of other things. My ADHD combined with my dyscalculia means I was an hour out of sync today. I arrived an hour early at two different things today and then thought you were an hour later. And so, right? So like just managing time, let alone dollars and cents and all of that stuff, doesn't mean I'm not a very intelligent person, but it does mean my brain processes things in a certain way that can make money a little odd, right? So you are here, I'm hoping, to talk to me and to this beautiful audience of people about financial wellness, financial education, why that's important, all that kind of stuff. So go.
Absolutely, yes. So thank you so much for having us. I think that these conversations are so important to have because just as a little background on myself, then I'll get into that. I'm Matt Kisloski. I'm the financial wellness manager at Visions Federal Credit Union. So in the financial wellness department, we oversee financial education as a whole and financial counseling. So that's our one-on-one counseling program. And the reason for this and the reason that this is one becoming much more of a hot topic. It's being talked about more as far as financial well-being, financial education. It's just so important to get the information out there to the community. So we always say whether you come to Visions or not, we want our community members to have that information and have access to tools and resources that will help them. Because financial education and just general personal finance topics aren't something that are really always taught in schools or taught in schools in the best way. We're seeing more states get on board with financial literacy in their curriculum, but it's still not always there. So however we can fill the gap in that space is really, really important. And people have a lot going on in their lives, whether it's work or personal things. You don't always have the time to become a financial expert, right? So if you're a mechanic, you spend your time becoming the best mechanic you can and learning all about cars or other machinery. You don't necessarily have the time to go out and also become a world star accountant. So we want people to have that knowledge of their personal finance. What are some best practices? What makes the most sense? Why is it important to know why to have a bank account? What are some of the benefits to that versus storing money in a shoebox in your closet? Those are a lot of conversations we can have. Why is it important to build a budget and maintain a budget? Why is your credit score important? And how can you really either optimize what you're already doing well or build something great to give yourself some more opportunities? And then why is it important to set money aside for future use? And how are some of the best tips and tricks to get to where you want to go financially? These are a lot of the conversations that we have to prepare people for their financial journey in their life. Because the other thing that we always look at is where are stressors coming from in people's day-to-day life? And generally, when you look at the top ones, most, if not all, are either directly or indirectly tied to finances. It's something that people think about a lot, and however we can not necessarily hold their hand through the whole thing, but give them the tools to be financially independent, make the most informed decisions, and really find the system and program and account that's best for them. So it's really about getting that education information out into the community.
I love that. I was raised by parents who really, really believed that what benefits one benefits all, and that the way to go about your personal life and your business life is with that attitude. That if you're always looking at, I have to get something out of this, you're missing what you will get out of it. My dad's responsible for a number of businesses being successful because he would, he'd come across somebody who was struggling and he would take the time to help them out, give them information, introduce them around. He was a real giver. And, there were people who criticized him. Like, what are you doing? That's not benefiting you. You're like, yeah, it is. My community's better for it. And so the fact that your organization has that outlook, that you want to be part of what's going on in a productive and positive way because everybody benefits. It's not whether or not you're going to get a customer. It's whether or not the community is better. And it's the reason why, in terms of larger financial institutions, you're one of two that I'm talking to. Not everybody had this opportunity because I'm looking for organizations that are really there for the people and for the communities to help neurodivergent folks find trustworthy sources of information, trustworthy sources of help. And that's a tough job, right? So when I heard all of what your organization was doing, and I met you and I saw your true, sincere commitment to all the words you just spoke, I knew that I wanted to make sure this community and this audience had an opportunity to hear from you. I am curious, Matt, and I think others might be, how did you land in this line of work?
So I had a different pathway to being in the financial space. I always say, if you told me 6 years ago that I'd be working at a financial institution, I would have told you were crazy. So I actually went to school for environmental studies and public policy. So in my mind, I was gearing up to either do something in the government space or the conservation space. And those are still things that I do, not government, but the conservation space is things that I volunteer for in my spare time. But it did kind of get me rolling as far as what are my passions and what do I want to follow. So I got out of school. I was working at a nature center as an educator. It was more seasonal. So then I had to find, what am I going to do next? And I found myself working at an animal shelter. And it was a smaller animal shelter. And I started looking at their financials, their budgets, and that was part of what I was doing in my job, along with working with animals, doing some of the humane calls and just animal care in general. I was also looking at how they were operating and what their budgets looked like. And I kind of found some of my strong points in fundraising and budget building and areas like that. And that got me thinking about some other options that I could have moving forward. It's the nonprofit world I love it so much because it gives you the opportunity to get to know so many people. I always like to say, if there's a really good nonprofit network, they all know each other, and it's a really great way to network and get to know people and look at opportunities. I had also been a swim coach for a long time. So that was something where I got to kind of scratch that education itch there, along with working with people in something that I really loved. And as I progressed in my career there, there were opportunities coming up at a bank in my local town that I took, worked there. Didn't necessarily love the branch banking, but it got me to know that financial world a little bit more. And then a financial wellness officer position came up at Visions. I looked at it because in my area, everybody kind of knows Visions, especially being in the nonprofit world. I knew what they had done sponsorship wise for some of my previous organizations. And I saw that this was a position at a financial institution that worked a lot with nonprofits, a lot with schools. There was a lot of educating pieces to it, and it really just seemed like a nice fit. So I applied, ended up getting the position, and that's the department that I oversee today. So not as conventional as a lot of people that say, I want to get into banking, I'm going to do it. They go and they work their way there. I kind of came from bouncing around some different nonprofits, mainly the animal shelter sector and environmental areas. And then kind of being a part-time swim coach all the way through to get that education factor. I was also an aquatics director at a school for a moment. And, you know, it was one of those things where I can either go this route towards the financial sector, or I can become a teacher. Both my parents were teachers, so that was always the option. And when I was an aquatics director at the school and the swim coach, it was a pretty natural path. But then I kind of thought, let's test these waters over here, because along with, you know, as much as I harp on financial independence, financial flexibility, I'm big on opportunities as well. And you know, if you don't try things out, you'll never know. And before a lot of the positions that I've taken, I always talk it over with my wife as far as, you know, what does this look like? What are the opportunities here? And she's amazing, and she always says, you would regret it if you didn't try something out. You'll think back and think, what would that have looked like? At least now I knew, and I got on the path where, you know, super happy. I have a great opportunity to have the best of all the worlds that I cared so much about. Because I get to work with nonprofits, I get to work directly one-on-one with people. I get to have those elements of coaching in my day-to-day too. So it really does package up what I really like. So it allows me to make a difference while also having a job.
I think you are a wonderful example of the heart can lead you to places that we don't commonly think of the heart leading, right? Makes total sense, right? You went to school for environmentalism. Yeah, I'll work for the, you know, rescuing the dogs and the kitties and the, you know, right? That makes sense. For somebody to start off the way you did and land in the world of finance is a really interesting thing. But again, it goes back and speaks to why you're doing what you're doing. And so the what you're doing, I think that it wouldn't have been very many years ago in financial wellness, it wasn't a term. It wasn't a thing. You have money or you don't have money, right? Financial wellness is having money. Financial ill health is not having money. Done, right? But we live in a much richer, full of possibilities world today. That also comes with so many things you may not know. And so can you talk to me a little bit about, first, how might you explain financial wellness to somebody? Oh, I'm a financial wellness officer. What is, you know, like, okay, what does that mean? Why does the average person need to think more about their money than I get paid, I pay my bills. I get paid, I pay my bills. I get paid, I don't have enough to pay my bills, right? Like, that's the stuff we tend to think about. Why do we need to think about more?
And that's a great question. And it's a question that I don't know will ever have one answer, right? I like to say, you know, financial wellness, when we look at what that is, at the heart of that is personal finance. And it's kind of right in the name, personal finance. So it's such an individualized topic, which is kind of why we started that one-on-one financial counseling program that we have. That's so individualized to our clients and who we're working with, and how do we find a system that's set up well for you. And that's the other thing about financial wellness. To your point, it's not a matter of one person has a bunch of money, one person doesn't have a bunch of money. Financial wellness is, how are you working with the systems in a way that's going to fit you the best? So, you know, we have our budgeting systems, which are really important. It's really important to build a budgeting system. That being said, I can give my favorite budget sheet to 10 people. Maybe the next week, 6 of them will come back and tell me they couldn't stand it. There's no way they can ever use it. It's all about finding something that's going to fit your eye the best. Um, and if we can get anybody that comes through to a point where they are working with a system that works well for them, that's financial wellness. It's not a matter of I make a ton of money, so I'm fine. I'm financially well. I'm financially literate, educated. We don't love the word financial literacy because it implies illiteracy. Um, but you know, as far as the financial knowledge goes, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You can make a ton of money and really benefit from financial counseling. Or you can not make a lot of money and have a budget system in place where you're set every single month. It's not the scale of a lot versus a little. It's how much knowledge do you have and how many resources are you taking advantage of is another thing. That's a lot of what we do. It's how can we direct people to the resources to gain that knowledge and really increase their independence. So we like to act as those tools of being a resource of giving that knowledge, but there's a lot out there that people aren't taking advantage of. So it's really getting people in the space where they know what they need to do and they know how to set up a system to do what they need to do. Because at the end of the day, we can sit with somebody for hours and hours and hours, but back to personal finance, individualize. If the individual either doesn't want to do it or thinks that they can set up a better system, we can give them the resources, but we can't make them do anything that they don't want to do.
Mhm.
And that's absolutely fine. But we want to be a resource and a tool to, I always like to say, optimize what they're already doing well. Because no matter what system's in place or what somebody's doing, the odds that they're doing nothing well at all is slim to none. So anytime that we can optimize what they are already doing well, it's a big win for us. And if we can get everything on paper and down on a sheet, and we can say, these are what the current spending habits look like. This is what the credit looks like. Here are some things that might be able to improve that. That's a big win in itself. So it really is truly that such an individualized thing that the umbrella of it helps to maybe get people in the right path, or but it really is something to prompt them to do research and find out the best system, because learning something from a one size fits all approach is never going to be the most efficient. But with everything that's out there today, it can get people moving in the right direction. And it is really incremental wins is a big thing in financial wellness. If you're doing something better than you did yesterday, or, you know, coffee's a big thing for me. If I stop every morning and buy a cup of coffee, and then one of the days I think I can make it at home, that's a win. It's a personal finance win. I saved myself maybe $4, but you know what? That's $4 I saved myself. So it really is, it's so personal and so individualized.
Yeah, I think that that's very, very important for the neurodivergent community. There's this saying, especially for autistic people, if you've met an autistic person, you've met one autistic person, right? It's such a huge range of processing power and personality and all of that kind of stuff that we need personal approaches in just about every place we can find them. And to know that there are people out there in the world of money that would appreciate that. You lightly hinted at, the idea that there are different learning styles. There can't be a one size fits all for everyone because it simply doesn't work. And for this community, that's exceptionally important. One of the things that I enjoy about how committed your organization is to financial education is you have reached out to high school students and high schools and work with them so that there's more financial education. Is that something that you're very much involved in? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I don't personally oversee the high school branches, but I do a lot with the high schools that we don't have branches in. And also I do work very closely with our high school branch team. So we
Yeah,
have
so people who don't know, you actually have branches in the high schools. So just so that's clear, especially
yes.
if you're not from around here, you don't necessarily know that that's a thing. You have branches, and why? What, like, you're just trying to get the kids money? Why do you have a branch in a high school?
So it really does come down to that student development piece. So we have in-school branches, but also, my big thing is if you don't have an in-school branch, my team still comes in and we do presentations, games, anything like that with classes just to get that information out there. But to that in-school branch piece, it truly does come down to career readiness, student development, and also getting that information out there. So I work very closely with our in-school branch team, uh, and it's something that's really growing and taking off as financial wellness and financial well-being becomes more of an interest, and also the opportunities at places becomes more of an option too. Um, my favorite thing about our in-school branches is when I was in high school and somebody said, you can go work at a financial institution, whether it be a credit union or bank, I thought I can be a teller, a lender, or a branch manager. That's kind of all I knew. Now these students, these interns that we have and the other students have the opportunity to see, you can be a graphic designer here. You can be a web developer here. You can be in marketing here. There's so many other options that you never would think of, especially as a student trying to figure out, I need to make a decision on where my life's going. And opening up options at different companies, even if they don't go and work at a bank, it opens up saying, there are all these options at a financial institution. What other options are there at this business that I want to work at this nonprofit I want to work at this school I want to work at? So it's opening up the ability to say, this is what's out there, but then there's also pieces we help out with resume writing, interview skills, verbal and nonverbal communication is something that we work on. So they're taking the approach of their in-school branches, and you can do the transactions there, but you can also learn career skills and career readiness skills there too. It's kind of a casual classroom setting along with a branch setting. So it's a very unique, and it's something that we're growing and evolving, and it's going to continue to grow and evolve into something that I can't even foresee in the next few years. So it's a really exciting endeavor.
That's great. I think my my next point of interest is when I first started learning about all the things that Visions does to help support their customers. I asked the question, so if I have a stack of bills at home and they stress me out and I don't understand them and I am regularly late, can I just grab my mess and come in and someone will help me? And the person I asked that question to said, why, of course. And oh, that's fantastic, right? Because I have clients, I have people in my life that I have, tried to help them with some life skills, but I am not there in person to sit with them, and it's not something that I can make time for. It's not really what I do, right? To sit with them with each bill, to show them how to do their online banking, to set that up, right? It's a thing I can do, but it's not really the best use of my time. So that was one of the things I went around to these different banks and credit unions and said, hey, can I do this? And no one said no. But there's a difference between the enthusiastic, bright eyes, happy to experience that with you response I got from your organization and some of the, I guess those that I got from other places. And that's not to throw too much shade on other organizations, but I want to open up this as a need, right? I'm already going to feel ashamed. I'm already going to feel the stuff that I feel about entering the building, right? My social anxieties. I may have some verbal expression complications, right? There could be a lot going on with me as a neurodivergent person that makes just walking into the place something I'm going to have to talk myself into. So if I'm not sure I'm going to get the warm fuzzies from whomever I'm there to talk to, right? If I pick up on the tiniest little whiff of somebody thinking I'm stupid or somebody thinking I'm not enough or whatever, I'm not interested, right? Thank you, goodbye, right? I need people who are going to appreciate me as an individual and help me with the stuff I need help with without making me feel less than. And I think that is something a lot of neurodivergent people could relate to and second that they have felt that way. And so the idea that they could have some financial services, like one of my happy moments was I asked the question, what if somebody overdraws their bank account a couple of times, right? So we've all heard about those fees or we've experienced those fees, right? $35, you overdraw your bank account. And, you know, those of us who have to pay the fees are like, okay, I had no money and now you want me to give you more, right? And for people who are struggling, that can become an impossible catch-up scenario. And what one of your folks told me was, oh, we have a flagging system for that. And we'll call you up and we'll see if you're okay. You're not going to yell at me. You're not going to shame me. You're not going to tell me I need to take better care of my life. You're going to see if I'm okay. That was amazing. That was amazing. And so can you talk to me a little bit about what somebody's experience might be if they want to come in and they want help setting something up or they want information? In part, I'm thinking about parents who have children that won't be fully independent or may not be independent at all. And mom and or dad are not always going to be there, right? And they're not sure how to take care of their children beyond their personal ability. So there are a lot of different spaces in the neurodivergent world where not just a kind helping hand, but an invested, respectful helper is needed. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And I think what you're talking about, it really does encompass the atmosphere that's created. And we have an amazing branch staff and everybody's always happy to help out. And it really comes from when you look at the credit union kind of motto, and it's people helping people, right? And it always sounds cliche, but we always like to say it's not members helping members, you know, it's people helping people. So that's the biggest thing about our one-on-one counseling program. And this is outside of branch, but with my team, my one-on-one financial counselors, it doesn't matter if you're a Vision member or not. You can come get counseling services from us and we'll help walk you through how to get to where you want to be. And that's a very similar in the branches. You can walk in and somebody's going to be happy to help you out. Branches will probably want you to become a member. They would love to be able to see you more often and help you out, but you're going to come in and get help. And that's kind of the long and short answer of it is we're always happy to help, because as a credit union, being a member-owned not-for-profit organization, we truly do view ourselves and really make an effort to act as we are a part of this community. This is our community too. So you never want to see anybody in your community having a hard time or going through something unnecessary that you could help them out with. So it really does come down to, when you're talking about the willingness to help, it's just the community mentality. And the more that we as a larger organization can foster that and encourage that. The only hope that you can have is it bleeds out to a lot of other organizations too. And you know, the stronger the communities are, the stronger the community is. So we really, really try to foster that helping mentality, and it is people helping people, and that's really what it comes down to. Whether you're a member or not, you are more than welcome to hop on our website, find my team's page, reach out to any one of us, and we'll help you with in any way that we can.
That's great. I appreciate that so much. I think a sense of belonging is something that just about any person is going to seek out. But a lot of neurodivergent people have experienced a very intense rejection of them and their personalities and their needs and things like that. And so new environments where you can't know everything going in can be just super stressful. And how we process information, whether it's visually or audibly or in text, things like that, how we process information is different for each and every one of us. And one of the experiences I've had is I'll ask a question and in other institutions, I've been told, oh, well, just go on the website. Just go on the website. Just go on the website. And that's great. I often just go on the website so I can avoid talking to people. And I love people, right? But I don't want to talk to people. Right. So the website's great, but the website isn't great when my autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, dyscalculic self is a little not at my best. Because if my anxiety's high, which money makes my anxiety high, right? If something is a little off, all of my other stuff becomes more complicated. And I've had a number of people in my life say, why don't you just do like one of those institutions that's all online? Because I do a lot of my money online, right? And it's always been because when I can't process it anymore, I need a human. I need to be able to drive up, walk in, and say help, right? And so that sort of knee-jerk reaction to send somebody away, right? So I liked what you were talking about, because if somebody comes in, even if they're not a member, you're not going to send them away. Oh, there's information on our website, non-member you, right? Go away and come back when you want to be one of us, right? You're just inclusive. You're just there helping people. And I think in the world of finance, and I hope somebody hears this out there, this has got to start being the model. Money is something everybody needs to have a relationship with. It is a thing that is not educated well at any level of life. And it's a space where I think a lot of people, whether you're neurodivergent or not, where people don't feel welcome. They don't feel included. They feel othered and embarrassed and a lot of stuff. It is not comfy. Nothing comfy about it, right? So, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Matt, in a format like this is I hope whoever hears this, you know, Visions isn't going to be available to everyone, but they're going to go back to their own financial institution and say, hey, there are people doing a thing, right? How come you guys don't do the thing? Because if we don't start treating everybody who walks through our door as a valued member of our space, right? If we treat people as not quite good enough or as not included, and for somebody like me in my community where that might be a pretty regular experience, it just becomes harder and harder to participate in the world. And then you have people who maybe could manage those things, but their experience has been too difficult, sometimes even trauma-inducing, right? For them to even want to walk in your door. So having said all of that, what might somebody say who doesn't have access to visions, or, even if they do, they like their bank, maybe Aunt Sally works there or something like that, right? Everybody's banked there since, before they were born. They're comfortable, they understand the building, etc. But what might they be able to walk in and ask for that could kind of wake up that space to, oh, there are different kinds of people out here. Not everybody's going to be able to just go check the website. Not everybody's going to be able to understand the difference between cash and the numbers on the screen or your phone, right? Like all of those different processing things that might seem, what do you mean you can't understand your money? You had $5, you spent 4 of it, now you have $1. Yes, I understand that. But somehow my brain didn't realize the $4 was leaving, right? And when you say that to people who don't have that experience, right, who have a good processing relationship with numbers, with money, things like that, they can handle the difference between something I can hold in my hand and something I can only conceptualize. They can roll with that. It's pretty simple. To try to explain that somebody can't, right? And then to have to go, right? So do you ever work with other organizations to help them do what you do? Do you have any like industry things that I could go into my other bank and say, hey, look at this industry thing, or hey, I can have you talk to Visions, or what can we do to help take your message and get it more out into the rest of the financial world?
And that's a great question. And before I jump to that question, I think hitting on one of the things you were talking about is really important. Along the lines of, digital platforms are wonderful. We love digital platforms, but sometimes you just want a friendly face, right? And that's kind of what it pairs down to, more so than is there a specific question to ask? It comes back around to, are you finding what's working best for you? And that encompasses the financial institution itself. Um, Everybody can go to one spot, but if you walk in there and you don't feel comfortable, or you don't have somebody there that you feel comfortable talking to, or kind of building that rapport with, or relationship with, that's probably not the place for you. So find a spot where there's somebody that you just feel comfortable talking to. It's just like anything else. What's going to be best for you? If that's going down the street from where everybody else that does their financial transactions, that's fine, because that's where you're comfortable, and you're comfortable asking certain questions, or having somebody walk you through what you need to get done. So I think before thinking about what do I need to ask anybody in there, you should ask yourself, am I comfortable going in there and sitting down with somebody and just saying, hi, I'm looking over my account, and I just have a couple questions. So finding that team and that environment that is comfortable for you is really number one. As far as getting these messages out there in the financial industry world, it's something that is really picking up steam. So we're seeing it a lot more. We're seeing, that the message that I hope that I put out there and project isn't as unique as maybe it would have been years ago. But that being said, as an organization, and as particularly a community organization, we're always happy to talk with anybody that's interested in talking with us. And also setting up systems with maybe non-financial institutions that just want to help their patrons start the budgeting system, or how can you make the most positive impact on your credit. So that's working with churches, other nonprofit organizations, schools. How can we work with them to help their patrons out? and it doesn't ever really have to come through us. But if we can set up a partnership where they know that they can funnel people to us if they reach their limit of what they're able to help people with, we're always happy to set anything up like that. So it really is that open line of communication with others, either in your industry or in your community. When it all comes down to it, it's the comfortability of how does this organization, team, institution make you feel when you walk in? And if it's not right, then it's not right.
Thanks for that, Matt. I think maybe I could talk to you for a very long time, but I want to respect that you've got other things to do. So I think maybe for me, the last bit would be financial planning opportunities. Like I said, there may be parents who are trying to help a child, or I think there are people like I was. I didn't, figure out my neurodiverse identity until I was 50. And that gave me the opportunity to start learning where I had made decisions based on more survival skills than life skills. And that certainly came into play with money. Because of my dyscalculia, I can have most of all of that pretty well put together, but every once in a while, there's sort of a glitch in the system where I didn't realize something worked the way it works. I didn't understand. And I think earlier on in my life, before I understood that dyscalculia even existed, I would get really terrified in certain financial situations, and I wouldn't let a certain amount of money leave my bank account. And I would use a credit card because I couldn't intellectually, logically, I do understand that wasn't a great decision, but the way my survival skills were around money, I was protective of what was in the bank. And so I would use credit, and I got myself into quite a bit of debt. And the only thing I found was people reacting to me with, well, you can go bankrupt, right? Or it was sort of these very harsh solutions with no offer of education, no information, just sort of this sort of hard fix-it space, and a lot of, I don't know, icky feelings about having to go say to somebody like, yeah, I don't understand this, right? I don't get how this works. Can somebody talk to me about it? And so whether it's, parents trying to set their children up for financial success, or it's an adult who's just sort of realizing, what, maybe I'm not using my money in a way that's effective. So that's sort of fine. I don't know. I think people always think financial planning has to do with, I've got $1 million in the bank. Now I need to know how to invest it. And there's more to it than that. So can you start there? What is financial planning? And then why different categories of people might really benefit from talking to a financial planner?
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about financial planning and that investment aspect, that's another team. So my team doesn't do anything with investments, but it is that financial counseling, and our financial counselors ideally are kind of that pathway to get to talk to some of those financial advisors, financial planners. And again, they're just like anything else. Find one that you're super comfortable with, find one that's going to set up a system that works well for you. When we're thinking about day-to-day financial planning, that truly is that financial counseling piece that can be very helpful. One of the most popular things we talk about, I would say the two biggest ones we talk about are budgeting and credit scores and credit in general. And when you look at day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year, budgeting is really where it starts. I always like to compare it to, it's the foundation of your house, right? If you're personal finance world is a house, the foundation is that budget. And setting up a budget gives you a lot more confidence to your point with I have X amount of money in the bank. Now I want to save that there, and I'm going to use my credit cards. Setting up a budgeting system that allows you to look at all of what you have, your income, your amount of money you have, and then mapping out your expenses in a very digestible way, learning the different kinds of expenses and organizing them out in a way that fits your eye. So just an example, we kind of, one of our general suggestions is take the fixed ones. Those are the ones that never change. They're going to be there every month. Those go up top. Your variable ones, they're going to be there, but you're not sure how much they're going to be. Those are in the middle. And then your discretionary, which is totally up to you. Those are entertainment, things like that. Those are at the bottom. So if your budget doesn't come out so smooth in a month, you can go right up the line and cut things you need to cut. And it's a little more digestible as a way to say, this is how it needs to be, or this is kind of a roadmap. It's not really supposed to be such a strict live by the numbers, but it's a kind of a guidance for you. And then off of that, you have your balance, and that's where you get to make all those decisions, right? That's where you can say, all right, I have X amount of money left over. Now what do I do with it? And where can I optimize my budget? Where can I improve my credit? Where can I make other decisions? Where can I go buy something and have some fun? Those things are all so important. So starting out with a budgeting system is really, really important, because then you can build off of that and set up yourself up with a really strong financial situation, because budgets are something that ideally stay pretty consistent from month to month. So there's going to be tweaks here and there, but if you set a system up in place, you're going to see that snowball into a lot of smooth transitions and a lot of saved headaches. It's something that we say a lot. It's tough to set money aside in an emergency savings account for something that might never ever happen to you. But when something does happen, when life happens, it can save you a lot of headaches. So I think just as far as planning in general, it's setting yourself up to be successful. And that starts with the foundation. That starts with, how can I build out the rest of my financial situation, and getting it all down on a sheet, whether it's a budget or another system that you use, having it in that one spot and being able to look at it and either make tweaks or look at something and say, I'm doing that really well. That's a great first step. So it's all about steps. And then eventually you take enough steps, you find a financial advisor that you like a lot, and you're in that kind of, we can pass you off to that investment space. And what does retirement look like for you? And that's kind of our goal, is, can we get people on such a solid path where now they're not looking at, how do I not live paycheck to paycheck? They're now looking with somebody else at, how can I retire comfortably, or how can my child retire comfortably? So it really is a step-by-step process that it takes time and it takes work, but the more personalized you can get and the better system you can set up, it helps out a lot.
That's great. Well, Matt, thank you so much. You've been a lot of fun to talk to, and it's great to get to know you a little bit better. For folks who will see this after the conference, we will make sure that your organization is linked in the comments and in the information below this video. But also, I know we're going to have a great time at the in-person event. You're going to be there with some other folks, and that'll go really, really well. Hopefully we can do something like this again. I think there's so much more that we could talk about that would benefit the neurodivergent community. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can figure that out in the future. So thanks, Matt. I appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed this.
Thank you. This was great.
Okay, good.
Take care.